But for the animals, this is their existence. They can't simply turn the video off or turn a blind eye. Our ignorance is their pain. Our complicity is their suffering. The very basis of being an ethical vegetarian is opposing the slaughter and death of animals. But all dairy cows and egg-laying hens are killed in slaughterhouses in the exact same way as animals just raised for their flesh. However, as we are about to discuss, the exploitation and suffering of dairy cows and egg-laying hens lasts significantly longer. So, firstly, let's start with dairy. All of the main practices in dairy farming are systemic all over the world, including even in India, where there is a perception that cows are treated differently. Like humans, cows are mammals, meaning they only produce milk when they have given birth. A farmer will forcibly impregnate the cows via artificial insemination, where they first take semen from a bull, usually by forcing the bull's penis into an artificial vagina. They will then restrain the female cow and force their arm inside her anus before holding her cervix in place through the lining of the anus and injecting the bull semen. Once her baby has been born, her child will be taken by the farmer, normally within the first 24 hours of the calf being born. The more milk the calf drinks, the less milk the farmer can sell. Cows form a strong maternal bond with their babies, just like human mothers with their children, and their herds are matriarchal. Consequently, the separation of the child from their mother causes them both deep psychological distress and grief, with both calling out for each other for days. The mother cow will then begin the process of being milked 2 or 3 times a day by the farmer, before then being forcibly impregnated again as the process repeats. Dairy cows have been selectively bred to produce up to 10 times more milk than they naturally would. This places a huge amount of strain on their bodies, increasing their risk of developing lameness and mastitis, the latter one being the inflammation of the cow's udder due to a bacterial infection. It is the most common disease dairy cows suffer from because of the unsanitary conditions the cows are often forced to live in. And although it is usually treated with antibiotics, some cows are also sent to slaughter because of having mastitis. Due to the strain placed on her body through the milking and calving process, mother cows will sometimes do the splits, where their back legs splay out. In the event of this happening, a farmer will use a chain called a hobble to shackle their back legs together. Most dairy cows are alive for around 4 to 6 years, significantly less than their 20 to 25 year lifespan. However, due to the strain placed on their bodies, cows become infertile, too weak or too ill after only a fraction of their lifespan. At this point, the cows are sent to the slaughterhouse as they are no longer profitable to the farmers. In the slaughterhouse, the most common method of cow slaughter is where the cow is forced into a stun box, where the slaughterhouse worker will then use a captive bolt gun to render the cow unconscious. Due to the precision required and the fact that the cows will move around and try to escape, it is very common for the captive bolt to not be used effectively, resulting in either multiple attempts or the cow being conscious as they are then released from the stun box to be shackled by one of their back legs. Once shackled, the cow will then have her throat cut, where she will be bled to death, before then being transported down the kill line to begin the process of being skinned and butchered. For the calves that she has given birth to during her life, they will first be separated and placed in a solitary confinement hutch. In the UK, calves are legally allowed to be kept in these hutches for the first 8 weeks of their life, although cows have also been documented still living in these hutches at 6 months old, barely able to move, with sores on their backs from rubbing against the top of the crates. They will also be mutilated by being disbudded, a process where the horn buds can be burnt out with a hot iron rod or eroded with an erosive chemical. After 8 weeks, the calves will then be moved into group housing, where the females will begin the process of being incorporated into the herd to follow in the footsteps of their mothers. For the male calves, there are several options that a farmer will choose from. In many areas of the world, they are raised for veal, an industry that subjugates dairy cows to being confined, sometimes in tiny veal crates. They are fed an iron-deficient diet and then killed at a matter of months old. Many people, especially vegetarians, oppose the veal industry. However, the veal industry only exists because of the dairy industry. So by buying dairy, you are creating the supply of calves for veal. Alternatively, male calves can be transported via live export to another country, sold into the beef industry, or killed. In fact, it is estimated that in the UK every single year, between 95,000 to 150,000 male dairy calves are shot and killed soon after being born. It is impossible to know exactly how many, because farmers do not need to register calves who have been killed within a few days of birth, and nor do the companies that collect and dispose of their bodies. After being killed, their bodies are then incinerated or rendered into products such as meat and bone meal for pet food. In the egg industry, male chicks are a useless byproduct, and because they are not selectively bred like meat chickens, they are not seen as profitable to be raised for their flesh. So as soon as they hatch, they are thrown by the hundreds of millions into industrial grinders, or they are gassed alive. This happens in all systems of egg production, whether it be caged, free range, or organic. The female chicks are debeaked, either by having their beaks cut or burnt off. This is done so they don't peck each other out of the stress and the unnatural conditions awaiting them on the egg farms. Caged hens will spend their entire lives confined in tiny cages, unable to move freely or even stretch out their wings. Cage-free eggs come from hens that are no longer confined in a cage, but are instead trapped inside a single barn, similar to chickens raised for their meat. In free-range barns, hens must be given access to an outside space during the day. However, when it comes to the indoor stocking density, farmers in the UK, for example, can legally house 16,000 birds per barn. That's equivalent to 9 birds per square meter of space. Many hens can't cope with the stress of being selectively bred to produce 300 eggs per year instead of the 10 to 15 they would naturally produce. This leads to them becoming malnourished, sick, and even dying from diseases such as osteoporosis or organ failure. Most of these injured and diseased hens are then later processed into pet food. After the hen's egg production declines, normally after around 72 weeks, they are then thrown into crates and are driven to a slaughterhouse. At the slaughterhouse, they are then hung upside down and their throats are slit. Some hens survive this ordeal and are then submerged into boiling water, the purpose of which is to soften their feathers. Alternatively, in some countries around the world, hens will often be gassed alive. So if we really want to stop animals from being used, then being vegetarian is simply not enough. The only way to stand against this needless suffering is through rejecting all forms of animal exploitation and being vegan.